Hey guys, how's it going? I'm setting up this room real quick for Jasmine, and then we're going to have our one-on-one mentoring session. So if you guys want to sit in, feel free. But just a reminder, I'm not going to be answering any questions for the public right now. This is just going to be a one-on-one session with Jasmine. So let me just finish setting up this room, and then we should be good to go. Got that all set up. Let me get Jasmine the link real quick. Should be good to go. There we go. Looks good. Let me send this link out real quick. All right, cool. Looks like we're good to go, guys. So let me just wait for Jasmine to show up. When she's in the room, then we can get started. So I'm just waiting for her to show up real quick. Meanwhile, I'll look for some US 30 trades right now. Looks like we got a pending sell right here, which I will probably enter if, if it ends up closing. Cool. Looks like we're good to go, guys. So let me just wait for Jasmine to show up when she's in the room.
How's it going, Shawn?
How's it going? How you doing?
Good, I'm good.
Good to hear. Did you take some trades today? Oh yeah, you did actually. You sent me your trade today, huh? You did pretty good today, look like.
I did. I got greedy with one, but overall it was a profitable day, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, no, you did pretty good. You had like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You had 7 wins and 1 loss. That's pretty good, for a day. Did you take anything else after that, or you just been hanging out?
No, I just been hanging out. So pretty much, in the afternoon, I don't really trade until like later on in the night. So.
Yeah, no, that's smart, because I've seen a lot of people, they'll make a lot of profit during the day, and then they trade during the swap, and then they lose everything. And I'm like, man, if you just chilled out for a couple more hours, you would have been good.
Yeah, I've learned my lesson when it comes to that. So I try not to be too greedy.
Yeah, 100%. All right, cool. So what do you want to cover today? Is there anything specific?
Yeah, so I was more so looking. I see that you're looking at the 3 minute with the sell coming up, sell signal. Yeah. I was gonna ask just about some breakdowns of the Forex pairs, just because I feel like every time you call Forex pairs, like 9 times out of 10, it's gonna hit TP1.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Like all the time. And I've tried to do it myself, but it's just like determining where it's gonna go after it breaks out the zone.
The zone, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you had like a lot of issues recently or if it's like been ongoing, but like the past couple of weeks, the Forex market just hasn't been there. It's like, it's been kind of hard to catch good trades. That's why I've only been calling like a few trades here and there. They usually do hit, but it's hard for me, even myself, to catch them. That's why I'm really careful with the Forex pairs, because I even try to look for trades today, for the previous 4-hour candle at 6 o'clock, and I didn't see anything. Like the market's like barely moving. So it's kind of hard to find them right now. But yeah, like I'll probably like, do you have a trade that you are looking at now, or one that you're probably confused with? Because I can like go over and I can tell you like, what I look for when determining whether it's a good trade or not.
So ever since you actually told me about all the GUs, EU, AU, those are the only ones that I really look for. And for any of those will be fine.
Gotcha. Okay, so we can probably look at the EU that I'm looking at right now. So like for this right here, well, the one that we have active right now, let's go on a clean chart right here, and I'll just pull this up real quick. Let's see. You trade on the 4-hour, right? Okay, cool. So I'll just pull up EU over here real quick and I'll just analyze this from scratch and I'll kind of show you what I was thinking about. Because the thing is, when I was looking at that EU trade, I was looking at both EU and GU right here. I'm glad I picked EU because EU is the one that actually pushed up and hit TP right away.
Right.
And, those are the two that I was kind of going side by side. I mean, they both would have been good trades. They still both would have been in profit. But if we took GU right here, we still would have been like halfway there. While for EU right here, we're about to hit full TP.
Right.
So, yeah, let me just show you real quick. So basically, I'll draw the zones real quick. Let me just take everything off here. Yeah, so you already know the whole process, right? Like drawing the zones, and all that. So we don't really need to go over that. I'll just draw it myself so that I can see what we're looking for here. So let's see, go through this real quick. Rectangle. I'll just draw these up because the rest is kind of relevant since we're like kind of far from it.
Right.
But yeah, looking at this right here. So basically, you already know how the strategy works. Basically, we look for, the break and close past structure. And then we look for the momentum signal. So for this signal right here, they actually entered this one late because the entry actually set up over here when it broke structure right here. So this was the actual entry. So this is when I was thinking about taking it last week on the 1st, but I didn't take it. Even though, even if we took that trade, it still would have been good because it would still be active. We got in like a later entry that was like somewhere over here. But the reason why I thought about taking this trade was that, so I saw this, let me just go back to it right here because this was the entry point. So this is the actual trade right here. So this is what I saw this morning at about 6 a.m. So when I saw this morning, the reason why I decided to take this trade was because I saw this, like sometimes you get this fake out. Like, if we decided to take this trade last week, sometimes you get this fake out where it comes up and then it comes back down. So I was just basically entering this as a late entry. So that's why it gave me like, that was like one check mark to like confirm my idea here was just that this was a fake out where price came up, it faked out, came down. And then as it came back up right here, I figured, oh, this is probably going to be where it actually pushes up. Because last week the market was just kind of weird. It was because it was mostly because it was NFP. So NFP, let me see what day was Friday. Oh, actually, okay, yeah. So Friday was the 2nd. So this entry came up on Thursday, the day before, and then NFP right here is the reason why it came down because NFP was right over here. So as you can see, if you look back to here, price was technically supposed to go up, but then NFP happened on Friday morning right here on the 2nd. You can see like the big news event right here. So NFP happened right there. And then what happened was it pushed price down. So when I saw this right here, this was my confirmation that, oh, this is probably just coming down because of the news, but then eventually it's going to have to correct back up. So that was one confirmation where I was like, all right, it's probably safe to enter this trade now. So that's why I decided to take that. On top of that, I looked at the index. So I don't know if you ever looked at the indexes, like the Euro index and the US dollar index, just to see how strong the currency is.
Right.
So that's another confirmation. I mean, there's a lot of different confirmations you can use, but there's like specific ones that I generally look for. So when I saw this trade right here, I saw that so we entered this at 6 o'clock. So I'm just going to rewind to 6 a.m. Like right there. So 6 a.m. right there, or actually that was on the 1st. Oh, I'm tripping. Okay, it's right here. This is 6. All right, so that was 6 o'clock right there for the Euro, the EXY, and then 6 o'clock for the US dollar was right here. So this was another confirmation that that kind of hinted me that, this would probably be a good trade. Because I saw right here that the EXY was pushing up. Like it was starting to push up pretty strong. And the DXY, the dollar index, was pushing down. So when I saw these two right here, I was like, okay, the euro is going to be strong and the dollar is going to be weak. So that gave me more confirmation that this would be a good trade right here. Because by looking at this here, if we're looking for Euro USD to go up, we want the euro to be stronger than the dollar. You know how that works, right? Like when the price goes up. So my first confirmation was that, okay, there was an entry that was available right here, but we skipped it because it was NFP. And then I saw that price shot up right here. So I was like, all right, price is going to correct back up because it was was initially going up in the first place. It just dropped down because of NFP. And then when I saw that right there, that was confirmation one. Confirmation number two, I pulled up the indexes. So I looked up the EXY and the DXY. I put them side by side, and I was like, oh, this is pretty obvious that this is going up and this is going down. So I was like, you know, put two and two together. That's like a second confirmation. Another confirmation that I did was I pulled up the other USD pair. So like I mentioned, I looked at both Euro USD and GU. So I looked at both of them and I was like, oh, they're both bullish. So I was like, if they're both bullish, you know, odds are this is probably going to shoot up. So I looked over at AUD USD. I was like, oh, it's bullish too. So if they all line up, like there's like, you know, different confirmations you can use. But if they're all pushing up like this, like AU is pushing up, EU is pushing up right there, GU is pushing up as well, and he's pushing up, you know, it's kind of common sense. You're like, oh, if they're all pushing up, they're probably going to keep pushing up because the dollar is just really weak. So those are the confirmations that I use to determine that trade. You know, obviously you can see that a lot more goes into analyzing these trades past going through just, you know, the basic strategy. The basic strategy is just the foundation. Once you have that entry, you can start looking at different things. But for the most part, that's basically all that I looked at. First, I looked at, you know, previous moves for EU. Second, I looked at the indexes. And then third, I looked at the similar pairs because the AU, EU, GU, and NU move the same direction. So when I saw all those line up, I was like, all right, this has got to be a good trade. So that's why I called it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Another question, this is related to US 30. So I seen in the message Telegram yesterday, y'all were talking about a daily for Sundays yesterday, and you said it's something like the daily.
The daily, are you talking about, I'm trying to think, Josh's strategy?
No, I think it you said something about yesterday. It was something like the daily. So first of all, is there a daily for Sundays or no?
So there's not officially, but that one it's another one of Josh's strategies. So he played around with it and he basically does the same 10-minute strategy, but when the market opens. So let's see, the market opened yesterday on the 4th. Like he does the same thing. It's just the same strategy, but he does it during Asia session. So let's see, on the 4th, the market opened. Yeah, market opened right here. Yeah, right there. So we had an invalid signal right there, but Josh would have taken the first valid one, which would have been this one right here. So basically it's the same strategy. It's just, you know, he waits for the market to open here on the 4th. This was Sunday. And then as soon as he saw the first valid K2 signal, he would have taken that buy right there. And then he would have done the same thing that we normally do for our daily entries. So he would have taken that entry right there. Same thing. I don't know if he uses something less or if he uses the full 150, but if you were to use the full 150, I would just recommend using the exit strategy. Like once it reaches halfway to like 750 pips to move your stop loss and profit, because on Sunday, you know, the market moves kind of slow. So you don't want to be holding on to it like a whole 24 hours because you don't know where it's going to go. Like once it reaches London session, like right here. So around this area right here, London session, well, between like 10 and so probably like around, let's see, this is 11, 10. Yeah, so between this area right here from 10 p.m. my time, basically 2 hours before London open. So 10 p.m. my time to midnight my time, which is when London opens, usually price starts to move kind of funky here. So like sometimes it'll move up. And then as we get close to London open, it like reverses. It'll like come down slightly. And then it'll either, you know, do one of two things. It'll either keep pushing up or it'll continue dropping down. So that's why I usually don't like to trade around 10 o'clock. Once it reaches 10 o'clock, like both night and day, my time, I usually don't take trades because that's usually when the market starts to move kind of weird. So basically this is Josh's strategy. If you were to take it, see if it plays out. Oh, look at this. This thing played out exactly like I said, right? Damn, that's crazy, right? It did exactly what I said it was going to do. Yeah. So like around 10, this like it just starts to act weird around 10. That's why I usually don't like to trade during this time because I mean, you could probably catch trades if you're trying to do that, but it doesn't always play out that way. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But, you know, me being a careful trader, I don't really want to risk it. Like I only want to take trades that I know are going to hit. So if you want to make your own strategy out of that, I mean, you possibly could. Like around 10 o'clock, you could start just catching the reversals.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple people do that. They do pretty well. And it's something that I could probably do too. But like I mentioned, I don't like to really mess around with that stuff. I personally don't like losing trades. When I lose trades, I like that shit eats me alive. I'm like, man, I should have just chilled,
It
So,
does.
I'm careful. Like, even though we could have made some profit here, let's see, we could have made, probably like 500 pips right there. Like, it could have been a quick scalp, but me personally, I'm like, is that 500 pips really worth it? So I just wait, and then I wait until US session. But if you were to take the daily entry here, it looks like it didn't really push into drawdown at all. Just right there at 10 o'clock. And then it ended up going back to where it was supposed to go.
Right.
So you could have done that there. I know Josh, I don't know if he goes for the full 150. I think he usually just goes for the 750. So he might be using 750, like 750 each instead of the 150, because he knows that the market it doesn't really move too much during, Sunday, because everything's still kind of closed.
Right.
So, I mean, depending on how you want to do it, the problem here is if you were to take this trade, you probably wouldn't see much movement until like the next day, right? Till like
Right.
US session. So even if you were to take this trade, you might be hanging on to this for a long time. And, the longer you hold on to US 30, the more dangerous it gets. Because if you start holding on to it for too long, there might be periods of time where, like, if you hold it all the way to US open right here at 630, this is where stuff starts to move like pretty crazy. Like if your stop loss or TP is too close, once it gets to this point right here, this could either go in your direction or against your direction. So you really don't know what's going to happen. Because I've seen sometimes where price is going up, and then right when it hits 630, this thing just goes complete opposite. And I'm like, damn, like, good thing I'm not in that trade,
Yeah, right, right.
So yeah, I mean, if you want to apply this, you could probably go for something even tighter. Like, you don't even have to go for the 750. You could probably go for maybe 50. Yeah, if you did 50, you could be, solid right there, straight to TP.
Right.
Within the first 30 minutes or so. But I mean, yeah, this isn't my strategy, so I wouldn't really know. If it's something that you want to go into a little deeper, maybe you should probably talk to Josh about it, because I know Josh is always changing his stuff up. So I'm not sure if he's done something different. I mean, whenever he sees something new, he's usually making like adjustments to it, even like with his 3-minute strategy. So it just really depends.
Yeah, and that's pretty. You said it's after 6:30 your time, where that's when the daily is normally like the signal, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I don't. Do we have one today? Let me check. Oh, we did. Yeah, we had one, but it came too late. Like, it came at 10:10. Usually I don't like trading after 10, like I mentioned. So like, my cutoff would be right there on 10. But if you were to take the daily today, it looks like it's still running right now. So this would have been the daily entry for today. Still technically running, currently in profit, but I don't know. Asia session is kind of weird. I don't really like trading during Asia session because I feel like it's so unpredictable. Sometimes, like, market like won't be moving at all, and then as soon as you get to London session, like I mentioned, 10 o'clock for London, that's when it starts to get funky too, because you don't want to be in a trade and then all of a sudden it starts moving kind of crazy. Like, for example, here, let's see, during Asia session, it's going down. So I could possibly see this doing the same thing that I just marked up earlier. So we could probably see this coming down from here, and then once it hits 10, it'll probably like come up a little bit, and then from that point, it's probably gonna do the same thing. It's either gonna continue pushing up or it's gonna come back down.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't like trading when stuff's too uncertain like that. Like, I want to know for sure, because and I don't trade during London anyways, so it wouldn't really make a difference for me. But if you were to trade during London, like, I would hate that feeling where like it hits midnight and then you're like, damn, should I get out or should I stay in?
Right.
Yeah, because I don't see very much consistency with it. Like, I do see it play out sometimes, but it's not really consistent where it's like, okay, every day it's going to move in this direction. It's really, you got to watch it and see how it moves, like the first couple minutes. Like, for example, over here, see midnight. Yeah, like this would have been hard for you to even tell, because once it hits midnight right here, it looks like it just went sideways for like a long time. Let me check. Yeah, I mean, it basically just went sideways within this area right here. So like, if you're trading around London session, you really don't know if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down.
Yeah, and I think me Trail and I want to say Tamara. We were actually up during London session before, and it normally starts to pick up like 5 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock I'm Central. So I think we're 2 hours ahead of y'all. So around that time, like he starts to pick up, but then my time 7 o'clock to like 8:30, like it's pretty dead. I've noticed that too. It's just like the same thing. So I can see exactly why like it gets funky. That makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you're awake during the time, you probably make money off it. You could probably trade it, but I rather just wait until US because you can see right here during US session, it actually moves. So it's easy, it's easier to catch those scalps rather than because I hate that feeling when it's just consolidating and you really don't know where it's gonna go. Because like when it breaks out, like you don't know if it's gonna keep going up. Like this could like break out and then come right back down. And I've seen some people where they see this happen, they see it come back down, so they close out and then it keeps going up. And they're like, damn, I should have held on to it.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened because 2 o'clock my time, which is 12 your time, it's pretty dead. It's really dead. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think if you wanted to trade during London, you should probably just trade the DAX because that's what Cheryl does. She trades the DAX and UK 100 during London session. Because the London session, it actually runs into the US session. So it'll run from midnight my time, which is I'm assuming 2 a.m. your time. So like 2 a.m. your time up until probably lunchtime your time. So like 2 a.m. up until like noon your time. Because I think it's like 10 o'clock my time. So that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely makes sense. So another thing that I wanted to talk about was the 15-minute strategy. Because I think my questions are is like once it gets in between the pivots, like is it the same where the pivots can't go through the body of the candle? Because sometimes like I'll see wicks from both sides and I'm like, well, I'm not really sure what to do. I think it's CT strategy.
Yeah, you're talking about CTs, right? The 15-minute zones and the I actually stopped using that because I had the same issue that you were just talking about. Like I would see too many entries and I'm like, do I take the buy or do I take the sell? Like it's like too confusing for me. Let me go over here real quick to the 15. I was just talking about that with a couple other people too, because they were asking about that. And I was like, honestly, I don't really apply that anymore. It was good that 1 week. Like there was 1 week where it was just like, it was hitting like every time. But once the market gets choppy, it's just, or like one thing that I don't like too is the 15-minute. Sometimes it give you zones that are too big. And it's like, man, you get buys and sells from both directions. Like I think it was like last week. Let me see, like on month or it was somewhere over here. There was a huge zone. It was some time like last week. There was just like this whole area at the bottom that was just a big
I think zone. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like this right here. I was like, man, what am I supposed to do with this? Because price kept bouncing around this area. And I really wanted to take a trade. And I think I took one and I lost, or I don't know if I lost, but I might have just like closed out with a small profit. But here, let me see if I can pull it up right here. The thing with this is I think we might have to take off a couple pivot. Oh, this strategy probably does work, but we probably have to take off like maybe level 1, level 2. Because looking at it now, it looks like it might have played. Let me see. Nah, it's still what it's lost. Yeah, because there's still a lot of entries here. If you turn on all the pivots here, there's like way too many entries, right? So you see like, let me just turn this off right here. Like you see one like right here for a sell, and you probably would have lost that one. And then you could take a buy right here. And then you probably would have made some money off that. But then, back and forth, there's like entries over here for a sell. And there's just too many entries right here. So I don't.
And what I'm noticing is now that you pointed out, it's like if it's a green candle, like normally it goes up for a buy. And that's what I noticed, but it's just like the wicks are just so confusing. Because like if you see like the all the ones that you have circled, they're all signaling like for a buy. So I was like, well, that makes sense. But then again, it's like the wicks are coming from every way. So
every way. Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. And that's why I kind of don't like it because, the snipe strategy is supposed to be very accurate. Like it's supposed to be a snipe, obviously. So it'd be better if you had a tighter zone, like a zone that wasn't so big.
Right.
But last week, the market was just messy. It was I don't think it was just because of the 15, because what happened was I was looking on the 10 as well, and it was the same situation. We had the same exact zone that was in that area. Yeah, see, that same zone was still there. So it was kind of like, it was like this zone right here, because they all overlap. So I was like, okay, if they overlap, then we have to merge them together. And it was just, same situation, big zone right there. So I don't know if it was just well, it seems like it was just last week that this became a problem. And like we talked about earlier, it was NFP, so it does make sense that that's why it was moving kind of weird like this. But I personally just haven't really been using the 15-minute. But if you did want to use it, I think there needs to be like some adjustments. I talked to CT about it, and he said it's a flex strategy. Like, he doesn't really have requirements, so I don't think we were even applying it properly. It was kind of like we were applying it as we saw stuff, but he doesn't really have like certain requirements for it, because he uses a lot of different things. Like, he'll use that strategy, but then he'll also use like the trend meter, and he'll use like the volume indicator, and there's just like a lot of stuff that he uses personally. So I would recommend to just stop using it, because it's the same strategy as the 10-minute.
Right.
It's just that you get more entries, which it could be a good thing or a bad thing, right? Because if you take too many entries and they don't hit, then it defeats the purpose of it being a snipe strategy. So I mean, if you want to keep using it, feel free. Let me check if it's. Have you been using it recently, or?
Yeah, I have. I've been playing, like, I haven't put it into mine just because I was so unsure. My account, I was using it for my demo, but I've been using it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because if it's working now, then it might, it just might have been last week that it was not working well because the market was so choppy. But if it's still working, then I mean, you might as well use it. I don't see a problem with not using it, because I did test it myself, and it works pretty accurate. It was just, it only works accurate when the market's actually moving. Like, you can't be using it when the market's like not doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because looking at it right here, let's see. Yeah, if you took any of these cells right here, these look like, wrong tool. Yeah, if you took any of these cells right here, these look pretty solid. Like any of these over here, any of those three. Let's see. These buys up here would have been some losses though. So yeah, the thing with this strategy is, like, I liked it at first, but then it went. I thought back to like what I always remind you guys. Like, I was telling people, like, don't don't play around with it too much, because if you play around too much, you're like looking for a trade, right? Like, you're looking for something that's really not there. Like, when I see some people who they trade on the 1 minute, or even like on the really short time frames, like even the 3 minutes kind of pushing it. But like, people who trade on the 1 minute, you're kind of just forcing a trade to show up, right? Because you're like just being impatient. So I mean, if it works for you, keep using it. But I think it only works when price is like actually moving. So maybe you would have to use I think there might be like another requirement that you might have to use, like maybe something like where you don't trade where it's consolidating. Like right here on the 3 minute, I probably wouldn't take any trades like within this area here. And then I'd probably wait for it to close below here. And then as soon as it closes below here, then you can start taking some trades around this area, because it starts to actually move.
Right.
Because that's what it looks like. It looks like right here. So if you took any of these here, they look kind of messy. But if you took this one right here, this one looks pretty solid as it starts to push up.
Yeah. And was that during New York session?
Yeah. So this was 9:30 a.m. my time. So that was 11:30 your time. So that was during like right before we probably would have stopped trading. So like right here today on the 5th, this entry came up at 9:24 a.m. my time. So that'd be 11:24 your time. That'd still be a pretty solid trade because it's before 10. So that did come up during actually, that's a good trade right there. Yeah. So I think that'd probably be the main thing. So if you want to start using it, I would probably, or if you want to keep using it, I would probably not trade when it's like within the, when it's just ranging. But once it actually breaks above, like for example, if it starts pushing up right here, I'd probably start taking some buys.
Right.
Or vice versa. If it starts coming down here, then I'll start taking some sells, right? So let me just see this real quick to see if this actually hits. Actually, it still works. It doesn't. Yeah, it does work. It's just I think that's the key. You just got to figure out when to trade it and when not to. I think that's what CT meant about the trade as well. You got to. It's like a flex strategy. You got to figure out the market's actually giving you like good entries, and then you can start taking them. Because looking at these over here, these look like they still hit. Like whenever price, yeah, I mean they still look fine. You just got to wait for it to actually move.
Yeah, it looks like once it's consolidated, it does that for a while, and then it has a breakout, and it starts to move.
Exactly. I think, yeah, for this right here, like for example, if it's pushing up and then even though you see some entries for a buy right here, I probably wouldn't take them. I'd wait for it to like swing below and then catch them in the opposite direction for it sell. Because that actually, yeah, this looks like it does work pretty good still. And I think you probably have to make some adjustments to the TP stop loss as well. Because I don't know if 500 pips is good on the 3 minute because it's such a short time frame. You might have to use like what Josh uses because he, his 3 minutes 25.50. Because if you were to take this trade here, like if you had 25.50, you would have hit TP. But if you're going for 50.50, it looks like you probably would have lost the trade. Yeah.
Okay. That looks good.
Yeah, but yeah, no, definitely. It looks like something that still works. It's just you just gotta play around with it.
Yeah, I'll definitely, especially tomorrow. I'll be taking a look at it.
Yeah, you know what I've been doing? Like what I've been doing is now I've been looking from the higher time frame and down. So I usually go from like CT strategy on the 15, and then I'll have like another, my 10-minute right next to it. I'll go from like the 15, the 10-minute. If I don't see anything on there, then I'll go down to the 3 minute for Josh's strategy. And then Josh has another one. Like me and Josh are working on something new, where we're actually like thinking that we're looking at some trades on the 1 minute. So Josh is still working on it. Once that's good to go, we'll probably introduce it to you guys. But it's pretty much it just goes down to levels. So like from the higher time frame, if you don't see nothing there, we go down from the 15, 10-minute, 3 minute, and then if there's nothing on there, we go on the 1 minute. But the 3 minute seems pretty solid. I think we should be good with that.
Yeah.
As like the last time frame to go to, because I don't want to go like too low, and then we end up start forcing trades because I feel like once I start showing you guys like 1 minute strategies, people are just going to be looking for something that really isn't there. Yeah, and it's just not going to end well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I remember like once you guys first introduced, I was like, oh, this is it. Like I was on a roll. like that strategy, that was amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy because like when Josh introduced it to me, I don't know if you remember the pivot strategy, but it's literally it's just the pivot
retracement.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the pivot strategy had a little more requirements. Like I'm sure you're familiar with it. Like it was a simple strategy. Like basically we were just looking for let me just put it over here again. So this is the K2 pivot strategy. So first you look for was it confirm valid K2 signal or actually no, that's not the first one. Confirm what was it, retracement in price. 2 was confirm rejection off K2 or rejection around K2 pivot area. 3rd, confirm valid K2 signal. And I think that was it. I'm trying to think if there was any other requirements. I think that was it. And then after that, you can enter on the open of the following candle. So basically, we used to apply this on the 10-minute, but Josh basically just, he switched over to the 3 minute, and it's literally the same strategy. It's just that his requirements are a little different. Oh no, I remember now. The first requirement was confirm the trend.
Yep.
Yeah, so confirm overall trend. So I think this is where it kind of differed a little bit too, because the only problem with this strategy was that it was there was too many requirements. Like it still hits the same way, but like something like this right here, if I was to see this, I don't know if I would have taken this trade because it doesn't look like price is trending up, using the original pivot strategy right here. So like I probably would have skipped this, but using Josh's strategy, we basically just take away the first requirement. We take away all the requirements, and the main one is just the 4th one, and then we add those two new requirements to it, where price is, above the pivots. So that whole above the pivots thing is basically the first requirement here, confirm the overall trend, because that's how his 2B requirement works. But it's basically the same strategy. Like right here, we have an overall uptrend. We have a retracement from this area. We got the rejection from this area right here. We got that valid buy signal right here. So if we were to take this trade, I mean, it's the same exact entry that Josh would have taken. It's just less requirements. So yeah, if we took that there, I mean, it still would have hit TP right there as well. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same strategy, but there's like little things that you can change to make things better, obviously.
Yeah, the trend trades, they're legit. They're definitely legit. So
yeah, for sure.
Another question that I had, especially with US30. So once you set it, like that's it, like as far as like the stop loss go, because a lot of times, especially with the daily, like I'll just move it, and then I'll end up losing more than anything.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So you just set your stop loss and let it be.
Yeah. For the daily entry now, I usually just set the TP stop loss, but then I take a smaller lot size because it's like such a big move. It's like, it's like 3 scalp entries, because scalp entry is only 500 pips, but the daily entry is 1500. So right. I usually just take it with a smaller lot size, like a really small one, and I'll let that run. And then I'll just scalp within it. So I'll take the bigger lot sizes when I just scalp within it. Like for example, if we had a buy daily entry, then my bias is gonna be for a buy, because I want my daily to hit, and I also want the scalps to hit as well. So I would probably just take like the buy scalps, or in some situations I would take both just to cover my loss, in case the daily doesn't hit.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the market conditions, right? Because when the daily comes, you really don't know what's going to happen. Like we kind of just take it blindly because we see the signal and we're like, all right, this is probably going to go in this direction, but we don't know if it's going to continue that direction or if it's going to reverse it halfway through.
Yeah. I noticed too with US30, like if it goes up at the beginning of the session, like later on that day, like it's gonna make its way back down.
Oh yeah, exactly, and that's why I don't really trade at 10 o'clock. Like when you look at the pairs here, like I was mentioning, like from 6 o'clock, you'll see that it goes one direction, and then once it hits 10, it starts going the opposite direction. Like for example, right here, market opens, and then this is going to be 10 o'clock right here, and it does exactly like I was just mentioning. So like market opens, goes up halfway. This is usually where I stop trading, because you can see like once it hits 10, market kind of moves kind of weird. It goes sideways, and then it ends up reversing it, to some extent. So that's just me being safe. I mean, people could probably still make profit trading during these choppy sessions, like the choppy movement, but it's not something that I really want to, I don't really want to mess with it, because you really don't know, right? And like, it's better for you to take trades only when you know what's going on than to just, flip a coin and then basically try to get lucky.
Yeah. That makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Yeah, I think that's all of the questions. I have my little board right here with my questions on it. Just making sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah. I mean, you got everything pretty much down. I think this session too is just to clear stuff up for you, but I think for the most part, you have it down for the most, because it's not really that hard, right? It's hard to get this like to really mess it up, because the requirements are pretty straightforward. The only complicated stuff is once you start to I think the most complicated part is just deciding whether it's a good trade or not. And that just comes with practice, right? Like for me, how I told you my confirmations, those aren't always the confirmations. Like sometimes my confirmations change where I look at market sentiment, or sometimes I look at news, or I mean, there's a lot of different things. I think I'm probably going to make another video, and I'm probably going to list like all my confirmations. And then everyone could probably make like, some sort of checklist just to look at certain things. Because obviously the more confirmations that are available, the better the trade, right? And that's why like most of my trades that I call usually hit, because I'm looking at so many different things at once.
Yeah. And I think that's very important. I know for me, like once I like first started, like I was just doing like just jumping into trade just because of the trend that it was going in, and then it'll reverse. So I made sure now, like I stick to the requirements and like don't get into it unless it meets the requirements.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I've seen a lot of people, they try to take shortcuts. Like even with Josh's strategy, he's kind of taking shortcuts, but you figure out a way to make it work, right? Because sometimes some requirements are more important than others, and sometimes some requirements are not important. Like for the snipe strategy, this third requirement here, when we confirm that the pivot isn't touching the body, like we never really look for that in reality. We only look for the first two requirements. This is just an extra. Like I see sometimes, because sometimes price will be moving so fast and you can't really follow it. Like if price is so close to the body, like let me see if I can find something over here. Damn, I can't see something right now, but like sometimes like you'll see where price is like, oh, like this one right here, like this green one right here.
Yeah.
You can see that it's like it's touching the body, but I know some people took this trade. I think I took it actually. See, like right there, like it moves so fast because sometimes when you're waiting for it to close, the pivot will actually be like below it. And then as soon as it closes, it just moves up and you're like, damn, I shouldn't enter that trade. But if you did enter it, I mean, it still would have played out. So it's like that requirement is kind of like a soft requirement. It's not really something that's super necessary, but it's something that I put there just so people like actually think, right? Because sometimes people will just take trades and not even think about it. They'll just be like, oh, this looks like a good entry and I'll take it. But yeah, I mean, it's good that you are following the requirements and you actually like follow them step by step. Because once you have that foundation down, like you can, that's when you can start adding extra stuff to it. I see a lot of people, they try to jump steps. Like they try to go to sentiment first before looking at the foundation. And that's what really messes up people. Because sometimes they'll see like sentiment is like 80% short. And they're like, oh, I for sure got to take a buy. And then they end up entering a trade when it's not even time to enter the trade yet.
Right. So I just seen something. Can you like fast forward a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Let's see.
Right there. Okay. So you see where the lower what is that?
Green one?
Yes, that green one. So in this, would you take a buy because none of the pivots are going through its body?
Yeah, no, for sure. I would take this buy right here. The main reason is because it fits the requirements. So like first requirement, wick rejection off the pivot, it's rejecting off the red pivot. And then second requirement, the wick rejection off the K2SR zone. So with, those two requirements there, I would have taken it. Because in reality, if you're applying the strategy, how it's supposed to be applied, you're really not looking at the other pivots. You're just looking at the one that's rejecting from. So you wouldn't really be looking at the other ones. The pivots are just there because, to look for other entries. But realistically, you don't really look at the other pivots. You're just looking at one main pivot. So yeah, I would take this buy right here. And I think it does hit, right? Let me see. Yeah, it looks like it should have hit because it's 50 pips isn't that far, especially during US session. So if you took that trade there, straight to TP, it looks like, yep, no drawdown.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. That now it's starting to make sense because I wouldn't have taken this. I think I'm too focused on the wicks. Like I don't know.
It was funny because you mentioned that. I already knew what you were talking about because other people were asking that same exact question. And I was even asking myself the same question. I was like, does that look good? Because it wasn't mainly because I was trying to see if it fit the requirements. I was mainly trying to see if it was actually touching the pivot. Because if you zoom in really close, I mean, it's kind of hard to see. This is one of those trades where you kind of just got to act on it. If you feel like it's a good trade, hop into it. Because you don't have time. Like for example, if you missed this when it closed, like you would have been long gone already because this would have been straight to TP already at that point. You would have been out 300 pips.
Yeah. I've learned not to second guess myself on stuff. Like win or lose, like if I feel good about it, I'm gonna jump in. If I don't, then I sit on my hands. So
yeah, exactly. And that's how you guys see me on the live session too, right? Sometimes I don't even like think about it. I'm literally, I see a trade, I'm like, I'm in. And then everyone's like, oh, you in?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it looked like a good trade and everything fits. So I don't even think about it sometimes. Because like with trading, like once you apply this strategy enough times, you kind of build that intuition, right? You start to feel it. Like when you know it's gonna be a good trade, you're like, all right, this is gonna be a good trade. So you take it and it ends up hitting. And sometimes you just got to go with your intuition. You can't second guess yourself. That's why for even myself, I stopped moving my stop loss or I stopped closing early because sometimes like for this trade right here, if price was to like, if I entered this right here and it got up to this point, I probably would have just closed out already. Because once I saw it start to drop right here, I'd have been like, all right, I'm out. But you know, now I'm like, I got to hold on to this trade because I just missed out on like an extra 200 pips right here. And that extra 200
Yeah.
pips is like another $1,000 if I'm trading a big lot size, you know?
Yeah. And then for me, like I did that in the beginning. Like once it'll reach like halfway, and then it'll start like looking like it's about to, I'll close out. And then the problem comes, I'll get back in it, and then I'll end up losing more than I made from the previous one. So
Exactly. Yeah, because you get in like when it's already in profit and you double up your loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, like this goes to show that, you know, it doesn't matter how long you've been trading. Like I've been trading for so long, but I still, that trade psychology still hits me. And I think it's because of the market conditions, right? Because like 2 weeks ago, market was kind of weird. It's going back and forth. But even though it was moving back and forth, like I would close out with like some profit. And I see everybody hitting like these crazy, like 3,000, 5,000 profit. I'm like, damn, they're doing better than me. And I'm the one that created the strategy, you know? Yeah, so I've kind of just learned to just let it run, and if it hits stop loss, it hits stop loss. But most of the time, it doesn't. So it's better to just trust it and let it do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I think that's it, Shawn. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely, no problem. Glad I could clear this up for you. Yeah, but all I can say is, you know, stay consistent because you've been doing a lot better like lately. You've been like, you know, as long as you close a day in profit, that should be your main goal. Close a day in profit because, you know, every day it's going to keep stacking, like just keep compounding over time.
Right.
And that's really the key. The key is to minimize risk and, you know, eliminate as many losses as possible. Like you don't have to go for the big wins every time because as long as you just keep winning and don't lose, your account's gonna grow regardless.
Right. I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to be out of my job, so I'm trying to work really hard.
Definitely, no, 100%. All right, cool. So I guess that's it for today, and then I guess I'll catch you tomorrow during the session.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, see you. Have a good night.